Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday. It's Veterans Day, Thursday, November 11th, 2021. I am Solid Blue Sister, and this is My Turn to Talk. Hello, Frankie. Welcome. You are number one. Okay, so let's get started today. All right, so today we are going to talk about Because I Said So. Is that a valid answer or cop out? Don't we owe our children more? Because I said so. How many times growing up did your parents say, because I said so? You would ask him a question. Can I have something? Can I have a cookie? Can I have candy? Can I go outside to play? Can I go to a party? Whatever. And it was because I said so. Can I borrow the car? You know, because I said so. And, is because I said so, is that a valid answer? I mean, what is because I said so? I mean, what's up with that answer? You know, I mean, growing up, I always, whenever my mother would always say it more so than my father, but, because I said so. And I always said that whenever I, had children, I would never, ever tell my child or children because I said so. And I do believe that it is a cop out. And I can happily say that my son is now 21 and my husband and I have never said because I said so. We made an effort to make sure that we never said that. I think that children or anybody deserves an answer, to be because I said so. I mean, what does that mean? I mean, it means that your parents said it, so therefore it is law, or whomever said it, be it your boss or whatever. But that's not giving me a valid reason. So, first, let me welcome Woody Bush and MGN. I don't know what that is. HIKEZ. Welcome, and Chemist. Welcome, my friend. Okay, so if your child says to you, or comes to you and says, "Can I borrow the car?" and you say no, they say why, and you say because I said so. Okay, well, can you give them a reason? Like, you can't borrow the car because you didn't do your homework, or the last time you borrowed the car, you didn't put gas in the car, or you know, I don't want you going to, wherever, say they want to borrow the car because they want to go to a party. You're like, no, I don't want you to drive to this particular party because the last time you drove, I told you not to take other people home and you did. And that was always a rule in our house. Whenever we were able to borrow the car, we were never allowed to take other people home. So, if we had other people in the car, my parents wanted to know who is going to be in the car with you. Who are you driving home? Or you can only take this person home, this person home, this person home, whatever. But when you tell a child, because I said so, Mom, can I have a cookie? No. Why? Because I said so. Can you say, because we're about to eat dinner or you just ate 10? You know, um, it's just not an answer. So, as I said, my husband and I always made a concerted effort never to tell our son because I said so. And I never did. And I think that when you say because I said so, I do believe that it does promote a disconnection uh, in children. And even in adults, I think there's that disconnect there. And because I said so, it effectively ends the conversation. You're not allowing for that child to come back and say, well, mom or dad, well, I want to do this because I said so. To me, it's just like, period, point blank. The conversation's over. Don't come back. Welcome, Crucible Man. How are you today? So, you know, I just think that for me personally, I think that it's a cop out, and I think that children, especially children, deserve more, because children are smart. And if you explain things to them, if you tell them why they can or cannot do something, I think they'll appreciate and even respect you more. But that's just me. So having said all that, I am going to open it up. I am going to send invites out to people. Whether or not you want to join in, that's up to you, no problem. But I am. And welcome, Sandra Lynn Smith. So I am going to start sending out these invites. And if you guys want to take the mic again, you're more than welcome. If not, I have no problem with that also. And Frankie, I know you're at work. And Crucible Man, hold on before you start. I want to say something. I was re-listening. I always listen to my shows um, every night or whatever. And when I was listening and I was going through the chat, I want to mention that yesterday it got a little tense, and there was a participant who through the chat cursed at another participant. And in my group, we usually keep it civil, even though we can disagree. So everyone, please don't do that. If you want to disagree, you know, you can. I have no problem with it, but just let's try to watch our words. And having said that, Crucible Man, what would you like to say?
Hello, everyone. When I saw this topic, I wasn't really sure how much I had to offer on the topic, but I guess I'm obviously familiar with that phrase, and it seems in my experience it's mostly a phrase that's used with children for obvious reasons. Either they don't. I'm not going to say they don't deserve an explanation. That's not accurate. But they're not, either they don't think they're capable of understanding it. They don't want to get into a back and forth because kids at a young age, they're not mature enough. Their minds aren't developed enough to grasp certain concepts. And I think parents, to save themselves, some frustration and wear and tear, they just cut to the chase. But I haven't really experienced too much of that as an adult, nor have I really seen or heard somebody say to another adult, or one adult to another adult, because I said so. I don't think that would fly. I think it's disrespectful. And even though you're not trying to disrespect a child, you're just trying to, move on with your day, because who knows how many of those conversations have taken place already and how many of them are yet to come. So I understand how that works, but I've never really experienced another adult saying to an adult, because I said so. I just don't think they would be able to get away with that. That's just my thought.
Okay, all right. Maybe not because I said so, but maybe a boss could effectively cut you off. Maybe saying, the topic is closed or whatever. But I see as, and again, because I said so, it is something that you generally, hear children saying. But going on what Crucible Man just said, just saying something that effectively cuts someone off, where you're not allowing for in engagement to hear the other side. If you say because I said so, are you giving that child a come back and saying, um, well, uh, your child wants to go out with a particular friend at school or classmate, whatever, and you say, well, can I go over so and so's house? They invited me over to his house, and you say no. Why? Because I said so. Can you say something like, well, no, I don't care for this person because, every time you're around him, you always get in trouble, or he's always doing something, whatever, or I don't like their parents. I don't think their parents are responsible. I mean, give them something. So then maybe that child could come back and say, oh, okay, I get it. Or even they're going to say, well, no, mom, he's not really like that, whatever. But just to engage. But I don't know. I don't know. Does anyone else want to jump in? Chemist, would you like to jump in? I know you have children. Would you like to jump in and say anything? Do you ever say, because I said so, to your children? If you would like to share. Hello? No? Okay. Not a problem. Not a problem. Okay. So if you say, let's say your child is, not a problem, chemist. Let's say your child is jumping up on the bed, just jumping up on the bed, jumping on the bed, jumping on the bed. And for some, when we were little, my sister and I and my cousin, we used to constantly, when we went over my grandparents' house, we would jump on the bed, jump on the bed, jump on the bed. And my grandmother would tell us, stop jumping on the bed. We would stop for like 5 minutes, start jumping on the bed, jumping on the bed, and then the bed broke. It always happened. And my grandmother would always get upset. But if she just said, stop jumping on the bed, and we said, why? And she said, because I said so, her valid reason would be to come back and say, because every time you girls jump on the bed, you end up breaking it. So again, I'm just looking for that answer. I'm looking for, just to tell me why. And in terms of bosses, I have had bosses that I've gone in to try to, talk to them about something, and they have effectively cut me off. And their answer was usually, I'm the boss. I decide what happens, and that was it. It was, I mean, just totally cut you off. So again, don't you think, people deserve to know why? I mean, unless you're being a total asshole or something, but people deserve to know why. So I'm going to come back around the Crucible Man, since you are the only one that is on mic right now. If you still want to engage in the conversation, you said the boss example is a good one. What do you mean by that? Why do you say that is a good one?
They probably don't use the words, like you said, they don't use the words because I said so. I mean, they may, but they probably frame it maybe some way that sounds a little more professional, because that's the way we do it around here, because that's my management style. There's some other maybe more sanitized way of ending the conversation, but it's even more disrespectful for an adult, particularly in an employer employee relationship. What you're basically telling them is you don't have a vote. And even though ultimately everybody knows who the boss is, nobody has to point that out. Everybody knows how the pecking order works at work. Nobody has to point that out. So it isn't as if people are in the dark about who's the boss. It could be an insecurity thing. It could be a power thing. It almost always is when it comes to a boss and a subordinate. So I think it's just maybe a reinforcement of the ground rules. Let's not forget how we run things around here, kind of a thing. And it quashes any dissension, obviously, and it quashes any conversation about changing things. And it serves, I guess, to inhibit any kind of dissent or any kind of clamor for change or anything. And once that conversation's happened a couple times, for the most part, I'm guessing people would get the clue and they would not bring it up again, which I'm guessing was the goal of the boss in the first place.
Excuse me. Okay, so you make a valid point, but let's look at what's going on. Let's take it away from because I said so, from children to adults, and let's look at what's going on in society right now, with people not going back to work because they don't like their jobs. They don't think they're making enough money. They don't think they're being treated fairly, whatever. Do you think that that's an effective thing to do as a company or as a boss to cut people off, where if you engage people who are working for you, and this is what I found just as someone who has worked for people. Um, if you cut people, and I've always, when I was working, I was always the one saying, well, what about this? And how come we can't do that? And I found that a lot of times the reason was, in my opinion, it was rather stupid. It just didn't make any sense to me, and I've always thought, and especially now what is going on, if you engage people, if you engage the people who are working for you, um, they can usually teach you something. They can usually, kind of tell you what is going on, because usually if you're the boss, a lot of times they don't know what is going on. They're so busy being the boss. They're so busy, going to meetings and what have you, that they're disengaged with their people who are doing the grunt work, and when you look at people who are like in customer service jobs, who take most of the crap from everybody. They're getting crap from their bosses. They're getting crap from people who are calling on the phone. If they ask a question to their superiors and say, well, why can't we do this? Or do you think that maybe we can do this because da 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 da? And the boss is like, well, no, whatever. This is the way we've always done it. Don't you think that's, just kind of rude, that maybe you should listen? So I hope I got my point across with everything that I just said. Took a long way to get there. Does anybody else want to jump in? If not, I'm gonna hand it back over to Crucible Man. Anybody? Okay, Crucible, you want to say something? You want to add into that? If not, I will keep going.
Yeah, I think the COVID, or I don't know if you referenced COVID specifically, but the whole exodus of employees from employers over the past 18 months or whatever it's been has mostly been blamed on COVID, for good reason. And now that COVID has kind of died down a little bit and is in the process, hopefully, of going away, it has been now for several months. If you just look at the statistics, I'm not saying it's gone or anything, and people are still not going back. We have a historic labor shortage in this country right now. Their unemployment is as low as it's ever been, and employers can't find workers. And I think it kind of goes to what you just said. Yeah, COVID is a part of it, but I think a lot of these places, particularly the restaurant business, some of the retail establishments that don't historically pay well, the working conditions, they're not, third world or anything, but they're not very ideal. And so the combination of bad pay, bad bosses, lousy hours and things was kind of a wake up call. And I think at the bottom of it was probably some of what you just referenced: bosses not respecting employees. I mean, ending conversations or quashing any kind of dissent or questions or things. And I think people kind of used COVID as a cover, but I think COVID was a wake up call for a lot of employees in terms of how they're treated at work, how they're treated by their boss, how they're treated by customers. And I think that has been a kind of a rallying cry for people to try to get a little more respect in the workplace. I think employers, it sounds like they're starting to wake up, but I believe that type of treatment, the because I said so equivalent, is a major driving force and why a lot of these people just don't want to go back to where they used to work.
Okay, all right. And just picking up on what you just said, I mean, I'm in California, and as we know, we have a lot of stuff that, a lot of these shipping containers that are piling up, and a lot of it, is because we don't have people, or there's not people there who are enough people there who are working to unload this stuff and get them onto trucks and and get them out to the world. I mean, it's it's just not enough people. You have people there who are working overtime 24/7, but then they get burned out. So again, because I said so, yes, it is a term for children, but it is a term that transfers over into adults. We just say it in a different way, but maybe we should, explain and ask why and listen. Welcome, Vron and Ajib Beacon. I know I probably said that wrong. And Kimma says, as a business owner, if I cut my employees down when they voice their opinions or concerns, that would show a lack of leadership skills and problem solving skills, which are crucial for retention. Absolutely. Absolutely. Like they say, if you keep, beating a dog, one day that dog's going to bite back. One day that dog is going to, not calling your employees dogs, chemists. I'm not, but you are, people are going to, they're going to fight back. And as we see in the labor force now, people are saying, I don't need to do this. Yes, I may need some money, I may need to do this, but I'm going to reinvent myself, which a lot of people have done, or I'm going to look for a job that respects me and pays more, whatever, because this right here isn't worth it. So when you ask that restaurant owner or that manager, can I have this day off? And you're like, well, no, you only get, every 14th day off. And it's like, dude, I'm sorry, but I'm tired. I just need one day off. Maybe that manager should say, yes, you can have the day off, because when that day off does come, that employee may not come back. So you're sacrificing a day off for what? Possibly that person quitting? I don't know. So, anybody else want to join into the conversation? Anybody? All right, so I am going to ask this question. If a child comes up to you and they say, Mom, can I go next door to play? Dad, can I go next door to play? You say no because I said so. What would be a better reason? I mean, can you say you can go after you clean your room? uh, can you can go, after your father comes home. I mean, to me, there's always another reason other than because I said so. And the same thing if you're talking to your boss at work, or whatever, there's always another thing to say as opposed to effectively cutting the conversation off. um, let's see. Okay, I'm just looking at see if anyone else made any other comments. No. All right, so Crucible Man, I am going to circle back to you. You mentioned on one of the previous shows that you were a family of five, four or five. I think you said five. Did your parents ever say, I told you so?
Very rarely. Usually it would be my mother who was making the decisions about what we did on a daily basis, where we could go, what time we could be home, and those kinds of things. I don't remember. It's been a long time, but she wasn't the type of mother that was dismissive of her kids, or disrespectful. Now, given that there were five of us, that's a lot of conversations. And depending on the day, I can imagine some days mothers, fathers are absolutely at their wits' end, and you could only have so many conversations before your mental health starts to deteriorate. And so I don't doubt that there were times where there was because I said so, or because that's the way it is, or something. But most of the time there was an explanation. Well, we're about to eat dinner, or it's too dark, or whatever the explanation was. So I think there was a level of respect there in terms of at least giving a little bit of an explanation. But to play devil's advocate, whether you're an employee or whether you're a child, it does. Conversations are two-sided, supposedly, and if you are continually engaging with a person who continues to ask questions even after you've given them a detailed explanation, maybe they didn't like the explanation, maybe they didn't understand it, but it is the explanation, and if they keep pushing, whether it's a child or whether it's an employee, you can understand the other person finally just saying, because I said so. So it is a two-way street. You have to respect, the back and forth. And if you've got a reputation as somebody who doesn't take the explanation very well and you keep arguing or keep going back and forth, you're probably going to get a lot of because I said so's, and you might even deserve them. So it kind of goes both ways. But to answer your question, I think my mother and father were pretty good about explanations, depending on how many they were having to give out in a given day. It can be exhausting being a parent of 5 kids. So I'm going to cut parents some slack on the "I told you so" thing, as long as it's invoked infrequently. But you should respect your kids enough to at least give them a basic explanation, even if it's not even accurate. If it's just something to, end the conversation, but not end it with "because I said so," you can give them some other lame ass excuse that you may not even believe, but it gives them something that they can take away to say, okay, I understand why I can't do this.
Okay. All right. Well, I am going to, when you said a couple of things that made me chuckle, because I was the kid growing up who kept pushing and pushing, and I was the person at work who kept pushing and pushing. I was never looking for an argument. I was always looking for a valid reason for something. And sometimes I've been a boss, and I am a boss right now. I mean, I don't have a lot of people, but I am, I am a boss. And one thing that I have learned from being being a subordinate is, like I said, I would never tell my child I told you so. At work, I would never, when as a boss, I always make a point of, when people come to me and they say, well, can we do it this way? And I'm like, well, and then they say, because blah blah blah, and they give a reason, whatever, or we're going back and forth. I'm just not going to cut someone off, because I've been in situations where people who were the boss, they were just flat out wrong. They were flat out wrong, and I think they even knew it. But I was that person that pushes and pushes and pushes, because if I don't think I'm getting a valid answer, it may not even be that I don't like it, but does it make sense? That's what I think people are looking for, and what they need to know, whatever. I don't know. I don't know. And then Crucible's man says, was it because you didn't like the answer as to why you kept pushing? No, it wasn't because I didn't like the answer. As I said, the answer was not a valid answer. I mean, it was something that it was, like you just said, give a lame ass answer. People know when you're lying to them. People know when you're giving them some bullshit answer. At least most people do. And I knew it. So it's like, can you just tell me why? I don't know. So let me ask this. Do you think, now, in my intro, I said, is because I said so. And again, you can take because I said so for children, or you can take it as a boss, whatever. Do you think it's a cop out? Do you think the initial because I said so is a cop out, because you don't want to go into the reason why, or you just don't feel like it, or whatever? Do you think that that's a cop out to say because I said so? Anybody? Anybody want to take that one? And Kimmis, I'm going to ask you to jump in whenever you are ready. And Crucible Man, I know you have something to say. What do you want to say, my friend?
Well, the thing that kind of runs through all of this, whether it's the child and the because I said so, or the employer or the adult, and it can be another relationship, but what the common theme seems to be here is a power dynamic. And that's probably why you don't get a because I said so between friends, because when you're talking to friends, there's a peer relationship there where it's implied that everybody's equal. So you wouldn't have a power dynamic necessarily between friends. There can be, but typically everybody's on the same plane. And that's not the case in a parent child relationship, and it's not the case in a employer employee relationship. So the interesting thing to me is the person in the power position is always the one to shut down the conversation because they have the power and the authority. And you're not going to get a subordinate or a child having that same exchange with somebody who outranks them, I guess, for lack of a better word. So I think that's where you get this dismissiveness or this lack of respect, because people know the power dynamic. Everybody knows who the child is and who the parent is. Everybody knows who the boss is at work. So there's this inherent power dynamic that goes on that gives bosses or gives parents some unchecked authority that allows them to kind of have more latitude with the conversation in terms of whether they want to continue it or not. So you don't find that in pure relationships. You only find it in a relationship where one person has power over the other. If that makes any sense.
Okay, so you bring up a valid point. So I'm going to say this right now. So hopefully, no one who is in the military they get upset with me. I'm not in the military. I've never been in the military. I do have family that have been in the military. Having said that, um, do you think that when you're in the military and say you're at war, okay, and you're general, sergeant, lieutenant, whomever, gives you a direct order, and you even know, or you have a feeling that that order is going to cause harm, do you have a right to say, I disagree? Or do you go along with it because that's what your officer told you to do? So you better do it, because if you don't, you'll get in trouble. So do you have the right? Okay, and okay, so you can challenge it. So again, I've never been in the military, so can you challenge it right there? I mean, let's say that literally, you guys are um okay, I'll use this as an example. D-Day. Okay, we've all seen the films, the videos, whatever. Well, not maybe not everyone, but the films and videos that are out there where they're you know getting off these boats about to come onto this island, whatever. And if I'm the person who says, well, I don't want to go because if we go, we're going to get shot down. We're in the open. This is a bad move. So when you say you can challenge it, Kim, is can I challenge it right then and there, or what do you do? I mean, if I refuse to go, what happens? Okay, so if it harms you or others and it is ethically or morally wrong. All right. So what happens when if everyone decides to stand with me and they tell their sergeant or whomever, the person in charge, I'm not going? What happens to the mission? Are we then being blamed because the mission did not go through or whatever, because we're all looking at certain death? So is that something where power does play into it, goes up the chain? But how fast is it going to go up the chain if right then and there we are facing imminent death, we're facing imminent harm? I mean, we don't have time to wait for General Smith to say whatever, and we are literally about to face imminent death or imminent harm right here. So, so Chemist, I'm going to ask you if you would like to come on and talk because I'm just, I'm playing devil's advocate here, as Crucible Man says. Um, what happens?
Right. So in that particular situation, you can take charge of the more senior soldier can take charge of the situation if they feel that the the decision that their senior made was ethically or morally wrong, or it puts your company and others in direct danger. The more senior soldier can take charge.
Okay, so having you've been in the military, correct?
Right.
Okay, so because I said so, and again, of course, we're not saying that in the military, I'm assuming, but that phrase and retooling it, to me, it seems like it's used a lot in the military because for the most part, they're giving everyone a direct order, and
It
you pretty much
is.
have to follow it, right?
It is, but like the military isn't really any different from the civilian world, right? They respect like you standing on your own. They respect you challenging their decisions. But you have to know when to do that. You can't just challenge their decisions all the time just because you feel like it.
Oh, okay. But if you're challenging their decisions, do they at least give you the respect of telling you why they are doing something? Frankie and Crucible Man, thank you for those golden beans. Thank you. I mean, do they at least tell you why they are saying you have to do this? Or do they just say, okay, we're about to go face so and so and just go do it? Or do they tell you why? If it's a dangerous mission, well, I'm assuming every mission is dangerous if you can if you're put in harm. But do they tell you why? Do they? I mean, tell me something. That's all I'm saying. Can you just give me a
Actually,
reason?
some military the military is, like I said, no different from the civilian world. You have stupid people and you have intelligent people. Some they handle the situations differently. Some people will say like, okay, because I said so. Those are the stupid people. They don't have anything else to go behind that. The people that give you explanations, those are the intelligent people that understand where you are and why you need that explanation.
Would you say that most people in the military, in terms of your higher ups who are making those decisions, give people a reason why, or do you think most of them just go do it, or say just do it and that's
No,
it?
the military they normally give you a reason why. Like they don't just throw you out into the world and be like, "Hey, go kill this guy." They're gonna debrief you first, then say, "Go kill this guy."
Okay, all right. All right. So, since I have you, Chemist, let me ask you. I know you have children. Have you ever said "because I told you so" to any of your children?
No, no, I haven't,
Okay.
because it's a just like with my employees, it's a battle of wits for me. So if I say I told you so, then I know that's not the right answer. It's not the truth, and they know it's not the truth. So I let them end the conversation because they don't have anything else to say.
Do you let them challenge you?
Yeah, I
Okay.
welcome
Okay. All right. So I'm going to ask you this because we had a conversation about a month ago on one of the shows about treating your daughters differently than your son. So
it. Right.
when you let them effectively in the conversation, is it different with your daughters as opposed to your sons?
No.
Okay. All right. Okay. I'm I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that. All right. So, does anyone have anything that they want to come back and say about the military and what Kim has said in terms of the "I told you so to speak" in the military? Crucible Man, you told him that he has some good points. You want to talk about those? And welcome, Shy Lady.
Yeah, I've not ever been in the military, but I understand the correlations that he's making to the civilian world. And I had mentioned the power dynamic a couple of minutes ago, and I think as a subset of that, and it may apply in the military more than it applies in civilian life, but I think it applies in both. And that's a trust factor. I'm not in favor of ever using "because I told you so" or "because that's the way it is." And with anybody, with a child or with an adult, it's dismissive and it's not respectful. So I'm not in favor of that at any time. But if you have a track record and people trust you, and you have a track record of good judgment and good decisions and good outcomes, you might be able to finesse that a little bit because your record speaks for itself. Like I said, I still think you owe people even the briefest of explanations just out of respect. But if you've built up some trust and people know that they can believe what you're saying, and if you say "because I said so," they may not like it because, like I said, it's disrespectful, but they might be okay with it because they trust you. And I think that is something that plays a role as much as the power piece does.
Okay. Shy Lady, did you want to come on? Have you ever told any of your children, "I told you so," or have you ever had a boss that may not have said "I told you so," but effectively ended a conversation because of whatever? That's the way we always do it, or that's not. We're not going to do it that way. So,
I don't recall telling any of my kids "because I said so," although I may have, because I know that I grew up hearing it from my father a lot. So I may have said it in a moment of anger toward one of my kids, but I don't recall it. I really don't, but I might have, because like I said, you sometimes repeat things that you've been through, you know, as an adult. When you were a kid, you sometimes repeat that. But I've always had a good relationship with my kids, and I've always been um, very thorough and explained to them why I wanted them to do something. So I've always been that kind of parent and not wanting to repeat the past. As far as a boss, I've had bosses who weren't very good, couldn't explain themselves. So I can't recall that I've encountered that. But like I said, as a child, I encountered it a lot. And my father was in the military. He was in the Marines, and he was just one of those kind of very authoritative kind of people.
did you ever challenge him, or
Yeah, I
any
did.
of your siblings,
I
or?
it only took one or two times to challenge him, and that was pretty much it. So no, no. But I was kind of one of those kind of people that didn't like to be just told what to do. So I did challenge him a couple of times, and it wasn't in my favor. So I decided not to go that route again.
Okay. Did any of your other siblings challenge him, or
Oh
they
no.
also decided not to go that route?
Oh no. I was the only one.
Okay. All right. And you are what number in the line of your siblings? Where
Number
are you?
two, two
Number
out of
two.
four.
2 out of 4. Okay.
Mhm.
All right.
Yep.
All right. And then for the bosses that you say weren't so good, they weren't very good bosses. Did you ever challenge them at work?
Oh yeah, I did. I did absolutely. Sometimes it may have been to my detriment, but I did, because I'm just one of those kind of people who just, if you say something to me and I don't understand it, I'm going to ask you why. Why would you say that? Why do I have to do that? So I've just always been one of those kind of people.
Okay.
Give me
All
give
right.
me a reason. Give me an explanation that makes sense.
And that's what I was saying earlier. My mouth, always got me in trouble. My mom always had to go up to school for me, from kindergarten through 12th grade. And I always was, give me a reason. You're not giving me a reason. It doesn't make sense. And then, when I would, challenge my teachers, especially in high school, my mom, she would sit there and she would listen to both sides, whatever. She would sit there quietly. And sometimes she would say, well, my daughter's asking a valid point. Why can't you, answer this question or whatever? Or we would get in the car going home. And I'm like, Mom, they didn't answer the question. It's like, it just doesn't make sense. And then when you start working and you're working for bosses that are just absolutely wrong, it's like, give me a reason. Give me a reason. And I think that as a child, to say because I said so, again, I think I think you're making your child disrespect you. Um, and children, as they grow up, I think that they they need and they have the right to question you, whether you're the teacher, the boss, the sergeant in the military. I think they have that right. But again, that's just me. Crazy lady says her father was in the military, and my big brother stepped up to our dad when he was 24. I understand that because I stepped up to my parents a lot in my adult life, So, all right. So I am going to know, excuse me, I want to know what I just said. If you continuously tell your child, because I told you so, because I told you so, because I told you so, do you think that's kind of like breaking them down to the point that when they do get older, and I don't want to necessarily use the word wuss or anything like that, but you're kind of breaking down their confidence and what have you, because you're kind of teaching them, because I told you so, not to challenge authority or even not to speak up for themselves. Do you think that you run the risk of it being a negative impact on your child? So, welcome, Farce. Does anyone want to take that one? I will circle back around. I'll start off with Chemist. What do you think?
Um, I think I think it is, and I challenge my children to always speak their mind, always ask questions, and challenge everything. So yeah, it is.
So, do you think that it could be a detriment that where it could make your child have a negative reaction where they
It is.
become passive because they become passive? I guess I can say that.
It is. If you constantly tell your child no, 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 they're gonna shut down. That's inevitable, and I try to avoid that.
Okay. All right. Crucible Man, what do you have to say? Thank you, Chemist. What do you have to say, Crucible Man? What do you think? You think it's making your child uh, shut down or become passive, or as
I
they get older?
I hadn't really thought of it that way, but now that I'm listening to you guys, I think it's a missed opportunity, whether it's as a parent or as an employer or any kind of a power relationship. It's a missed opportunity to build up respect for yourself, build up trust in your children and your employees, that you welcome their input. Everybody knows at the end of the day, the decision is going to be made by the person in charge, whether that's the parent or the employer. But the process of going through a back and forth is some kind of a intelligent discourse, is an opportunity to show your leadership skills and your confidence, and you're not afraid to be challenged. You're not afraid, because a lot of times when, maybe not with the parent relationship, but with employer relationship, there's a lot of bad bosses out there. Anybody who worked in corporate America or any place for any length of time knows there's a lot of dumb bosses out there. But you have an opportunity to demonstrate your confidence and your leadership and your management skills, whatever decision-making skills, whatever you're trying to demonstrate, those are opportunities. And by telling somebody that's because I said so, or that's the way it is, you've missed an opportunity to teach something, to give an example of something. And I think it's very short-sighted, because in the long run, certainly for your children, you're teaching them that it's okay to challenge and it's okay to do it in a respectful way, but you don't have to accept somebody's closed-end answer just because the power dynamic says you have to.
Well said. Shy Lady, I'm going to circle around to you. What do you think?
I agree with a lot of what Crucible Man said. You are when you are particularly a person in authority, is good that you allow people to express who they are. I agree with a lot of what he said. I can't. Can you go back to the original question, because I'm not sure if I understood the question. I want to make sure that I address the question.
Well, my original question was: do you think that continuously telling your telling your child because I said so will affect them later on in life as an adult? You know, as they get older, will they become passive? Will they, not stand up for themselves because you're saying because I said so? Do you think it can affect your child in the negative?
I definitely think that. Yes, I do. I think that it could make them followers instead of being a leader. It's not bad to be a follower, because sometimes you can learn things, but I definitely think it could negatively affect a child growing up. They won't be able to think on their own because they were always told just do it, and it takes away a person's thoughtfulness, their own creativity. I think by just always telling them because I said so, and I definitely think it's a possibility that your child can grow up with some kind of complex and low self-esteem even. So I think it's a negative for sure.
Okay. All right. Well, on one of my earlier shows before I came on the pod being when I was on YouTube and we were doing video, whatever, we had a discussion where there were some participants where we were talking about the generation of today, the younger generation of today. And we were saying, and one of the participants mainly, she was saying how today's youth, the teenagers and, you know, uh, young people in their 20s, and we saw it a lot last summer, the summer of 20 with all the protests and what have you. Um, Children of today, they're not taking because I said so as an answer. They will go out, and we're seeing they will protest. Um, they're not looking at the Martin Luther King turn the other cheek. Whatever. They're out there, and they want answers. They want answers, and I think that you know they and everyone is entitled to an answer. So no matter what side of the aisle you're on, whatever, telling a child today, especially as they get older, because I said so, it's not going to fly. Because these kids today, they want answers. They want you to tell them why. And I think that for some of the older people, some of us have been conditioned to accept that, and some of us weren't, whatever. But children of today, they want answers, and I saw that a lot when I was watching TV and I was looking at the protest, and people can spin it however they want. They want to call people whatever, but the bottom line is they want answers. They want valid answers. you just because you're wearing a uniform or you're have this particular title, that doesn't mean anything to today's kids. They want to know why. So because I said so, it may be something that parents may want to rethink. And as an employer, unable to get workers to work for them, um, they may want to uh, rethink. Maybe I should give more days off. Maybe I should pay people more. Maybe I should give them more breaks, whatever. Maybe I should stand up to them more, when a rude customer comes in. I've worked in retail. It was one of the most thankless jobs that I ever did. I did it when I was in college, and I hated it. It was a thankless job, and you're trying to keep the clothes, nice on the rack. And as soon as you get finished straightening them out, someone comes in and they mess it up. They literally throw stuff on the floor, and your boss is yelling at you to, make sure that you're picking this up and what have you. And I mean, some jobs are just thankless. Being working in a restaurant. I've never worked in a restaurant. I would never want to work in a restaurant because I know those people work their butts off, and you have people who come in and they're just rude. Some people are just rude just to be rude, whatever. And we're seeing more and more that people are saying, because I said so, or whatever that derivative of because I said so is. People are just not accepting it. They don't want to hear it. So on that note, I'm going to circle back around. Does anyone else want to say that I'm wrong or I'm right, or anybody want to jump in? Crazy lady, if you want to jump in, you can jump in if you want. But people are fed up, and I think children are also fed up. They may be little, whatever, but I think children have gone through a lot, and they go through a lot, not just with COVID and everything going on. What's going on with COVID, but just being a child is hard. Being a child is hard, and then you're an adult. Sometimes it doesn't get any any better. But we need to make things easy for our children, and part of that is giving them a reason when we tell them no. So having said that, I'm going to circle around. I'll start with Shy Lady this time. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? What do you think?
Definitely agree about. It seems that I think because of the social media aspect of today, I think that it's harder to be a kid in this day and age. To me, I have never. I don't recall. I've never read about so many suicides by people under like 21. It seems like I'm hearing a lot of people taking their own lives, young people, because of someone bullying them on the internet, or something said about a classmate. It's just, I don't know. It just seems like, it's, to me, with a lot of the social media, it seems a lot more that's on kids these days. Because when I was growing up, obviously we didn't have that, but the whole cyber thing is just a whole nother level.
This is true. Chemist, do you want to say anything while we're wrapping it up?
I'm sorry, I was actually preoccupied.
That's okay. We're wrapping it up, and I just want to know: do you want to give a last word or say anything?
Um, what was your question?
I'm sorry, Kevin. In some way, somehow, you always make me giggle and laugh. Basically, I'll just put it like this: do you want to give a last word about anything that we were talking about today? I'll just leave it like that.
Let me see.
You want to tell me I'm wrong? You want? I mean, you can say, chemist. You can say
So
whatever you want. You can say whatever you want.
I think I caught something. So employers employees would never change how they are. They're not going to raise any pay or anything like that because for every one strong-minded employee, you have 10 weak-minded employees, and they can get rid of that strong-minded employee with those 10 weak-minded employees. So it's always going to be submissive people in this world, and they kind of not balance, but outnumber strong-minded people.
Well, chemist, let me ask you this: if you have an employee that is strong-willed, um, independent,
Uh,
um, constantly asking you questions, and they are valid questions, okay, but they push you, okay,
mhm.
but they are a really good worker. Would you just grin and bear it, or would you ever get to the point where you say, I got to get rid of this person? What would you do?
I'd find a way to to get them better pay.
Okay. All right. All right, you answered my question. All right, so I'm going to go to Crucible Man. I'm going to go to Crucible Man. If anyone else wants to take the mic to give a last word, ask me now before we wrap it up. Crucible Man, what do you want to say? You want to give a last word?
Yeah, I hadn't thought of it until I think you might have just hit on it over the past few minutes, but it does seem to be a generational thing. When we were growing up, and I'm in my early 60s, so growing up in the 60s and 70s, you just didn't I mean, we joked around on some other of your shows about, your mother's on the phone and the kids are acting up. And back in those days, the phone was fastened to the wall, so she couldn't get up and do anything, but she could give you a look, and you knew damn well that when she got off that phone, there was going to be fire and brimstone coming down on your head. Um, but you just didn't talk back to your parents. You didn't challenge anything, and it was accepted. It was not. But today, I don't know whether it's because parents are more inclined to want to be friends with their kids, if that promotes better dialogue because of that relationship dynamic is changing. You see some things every once in a while on Facebook. Some of my friends, somebody will joke around about something and say, did you ever talk back to your parents? And the joke is always once. And you didn't find it back then. But today, I think it is a generational thing. I think kids and employees as well, they're empowered, they're emboldened. Maybe the internet has something to do with it. I don't know. But you do feel this empowerment going on between the generations that I don't think existed back when we were growing up.
Okay. Do you think it's power that's existing between the power play between the two generations, or the fact that the today's generation, they just want to know why?
I think
Don't
I
give
think
me some bullshit answer. Just tell me why.
Yes, I think it's the latter. I think they are better informed, they're more knowledgeable, and I just think they feel maybe they grow up faster, they're more mature. I don't have any proof of that, but I do think they feel entitled to be treated, as an adult, maybe before they are an adult. But I do think there is a need there, and not, I don't want to say entitlement, but yeah, I think the relationship between parents and children have changed, and I think parents are more willing to give explanations now because, like you said, kids are demanding it, and I think parents are finding that maybe there's a better way to skin the cat, and instead of being the authoritarian person all the time, maybe try a little, friendship type thing, and I think kids respond to that, and I think it makes them better adults.
Okay. All right, so we are wrapping it up. And good day, Gwen. You wanted to say something. So what did you want to say before we wrap it up here?
Oh, I was really listening about it, but it is true that kids are now demanding that talk that we all were afraid to have when we were growing up. I know I'm just 30, but I couldn't dare say half the things that kids are saying today to their parents. But it is generationally different. But I think it's important too because a lot of our kids are growing up to be a lot more confident than we were. I can speak for myself. The freedoms that they have now, I believe, is tailored to kind of help them a little bit more in life than versus having that that strictness that we all grew up to know. But turned out perfectly fine. But I'm definitely aware of that. It's needed for the kids to be able to voice how they feel. Because a lot of us were told to hush, or what stays in my house, and a lot of that is trauma for a lot of us. But I think it's necessary to have an even balance with the children to still know, for them to know that you're still the adult and that they can have a conversation with you, and speak on how they feel as far as emotions and what have you. Today's topic was great. Just listening in. Thanks for having me today.
Okay, Gwen, you make some very good points, and and another point too is we don't want to shut our children out. We don't want them to. I mean, yes, they are going to go to their friends, and they're going to get advice from their friends and what have you. But we don't want to get to the point where we're shutting our children out and they're not talking to us. We do want to have a conversation with our children. I mean, that's one thing that I do enjoy with my son. I mean, my son's 21, and we sit down and we talk. And unfortunately, there are a lot of families that can't do that either because the children are scared of their parents. Well, if I say this, they're going to do this or whatever, or they just don't feel that they have that open dialogue. So, good day, Gwen. You made some very good points. So, having said that, I am 6 minutes over. Does anybody else want to say anything else before we finally wrap it up? Anybody? Anybody want to say anything else? Anybody? Crucible, did you want to say something?
I just want to say that I was mistaken when I said earlier at the beginning of the show that when I saw the topic, I wasn't sure I would have enough to say or there would be enough there, but it was a very good show. Nice going.
Well, Crucible Man, you should know you've been on this show for quite some time now, and you should know that when it comes to this show, the topic can change and evolve, and people have opinions and what have you. So again, this show does not work without you guys, and I have no problem giving people the mic. And so I say truly thank you very, very much. Today is Thursday, which is my Friday, so I will not have a show tomorrow, but I will be back on Monday. I hope everyone enjoys their weekend, the rest of their week. Always speak your truth. I am Solid Blue Sister. This is my turn to talk, and I will see you on Monday. Thank you, everyone, for coming. And good day, Gwen. Even though you popped in right at the end, I hope you come back. Thank you. Blessings to you, too. Bye, Shy Lady. Have a good weekend, girl. And everyone, thank you for your likes. And Frankie and Crucible Man, thank you for your golden beans. I love them. Thank you so much. Let's see. I'm just going back through the rest of these. I missed anything in terms of chat? And thank you, Crucible Man, for saying this was a good show, and Shy Lady. I thought it was a good show. It's always a good show when people participate and they give their opinions. So, and Crucible Man, so you may want to scroll up to the chat earlier because Frankie said something to you at the very beginning of the show. So I'm not going to point it out, but you can scroll up to the chat and you can see it. Chemist, thank you for joining in. And thank you for making me giggle. Dude, you always manage to do that for me. All right, y'all. Have a good weekend. And I'll see you Monday. Bye.